With one signature, Caitlin Clark effectively retired veterans she has not even played yet. A massive Nike partnership was already secured before her professional career had even started. High-level NBC executives are currently scrubbing rosters, removing seasoned players who spent 2 years trying to sabotage her. Those veterans believed they were invincible, but they were mistaken. Caitlin isn't the one seeking retribution here. The financiers are the ones pulling the plug on the old guard, leaving them bickering while Caitlin courtside. She is shaking hands with icons, rapidly becoming the global brand they desperately wanted to suppress. This massive transfer of influence occurred with such speed that the average spectator failed to notice. Statistics remain objective, mirroring the vacant locker stalls once held by 10-year veterans in this survival game. Those who attempted to guard the gates are finding themselves excluded from the very empire they built. We are analyzing how poetic justice morphed into a corporate blueprint involving the superstar nobody expected. April 2024 saw a peculiar shift when Caitlin Clark declared, handing the organization a chaotic dream. 2.44 million sets of eyes tuned in just to witness her inaugural appearance with Indiana. These statistics barely scratch the surface of a franchise that had been languishing at the bottom for ages. They used to pull 4,000 spectators into a 17,000-seat stadium, selling tickets for pennies. Once Caitlin joined the roster, the entire landscape of the organization transformed in a single night. Weekly pass acquisitions surged by 300% instantly, with Wings tickets also disappearing at a record pace. Opposing organizations were forced to relocate Indiana matchups to massive stadiums to accommodate the overwhelming flood of fans. This is the crazy part. The longtime players noticed those metrics and the packed houses as well. They watched jerseys vanish while their personal social media accounts gained followers purely through her league presence. Rather than showing gratitude, Diana Taurasi publicly warned that newcomers must learn their lower status in the hierarchy. She predicted Caitlin would crumble under elite defensive pressure, claiming collegiate fame rarely translates to professional dominance. While presented as mentorship, the underlying tone was clearly a threat to the incoming star. A chorus of established players followed suit, carefully avoiding her name during press junkets as if it were taboo. They feared acknowledging her would only fuel her momentum, but then the actual whistle finally blew. Chennedy Carter delivered such a violent shoulder blow to Caitlin that it dominated headlines across the entire country. That blatant, premeditated strike went viral among non-sports fans, all while Angel Reese cheered from the sidelines. Her applause suggested a title had been won, sending an unmistakable signal to the rest of the world. The goal was to prove she was an outsider, followed by a barrage of unpunished physical aggression. Violent collisions occurred far from the play, accompanied by verbal attacks that devolved into deeply personal insults. Cryptic online disses and audio segments filled the airwaves as the old guard groaned about the spotlight. Certain athletes went as far as accusing news outlets of bias for prioritizing Caitlin over tenured veterans. The audience caught on quickly and began wondering something quite fundamental about the situation. What reason could they have to resent a massive influx of publicity? The cold numbers provided the answer. Prior to her arrival, a peak night saw 400,000 viewers. However, the May 14th launch changed everything. Standard matchups used to struggle for 200,000 viewers, with midweek matinees barely reaching six figures. Most franchises were essentially competing in ghost towns with endless rows of vacant plastic seating. Athletes once endured standard air travel, but now stadiums are overflowing and tickets vanish a month early. Entry costs skyrocketed threefold, while apparel demand demolished every historical sales milestone in the league books. Media giants are now aggressively bidding for coverage rights rather than using the league as schedule padding. They scrutinized digital interaction levels and monitored the volume of player-branded gear being sold across the country. Every conceivable data point pointed toward one reality. Caitlin Clark was generating unprecedented revenue for the sport. While she filled their pockets, the veterans tried to break her spirit under the watchful gaze of NBC. Streaming platforms and franchise proprietors were observing everything, meticulously documenting every move made by the players. They identified who leaned into the growth and who resisted it, distinguishing the profitable from the toxic. Those evaluations would soon become critical, as a major corporate pivot was about to revolutionize the industry. Come February 2025, NBC shook things up with a massive NBA and WNBA media rights deal. This was a multi-billion-dollar play. For the WNBA, it was the most lucrative contract in history. The world expected NBC to showcase the veterans and icons who built the league, not shift focus toward general NBA promotion. She was suddenly sharing the screen with legends like Vince Carter and Carmelo Anthony during pre-game broadcasts. She's there breaking down LeBron and Curry while superstars like Breanna Stewart or Diana Taurasi are missing from the promos entirely. Think about the sheer insanity of that move. NBC just dropped billions of dollars on WNBA rights. They had the power to elevate anyone. They could have crafted a masterpiece based on the league's deep history. They could have showcased the champions, the Paris 2024 gold and bronze medalists, the dedicated athletes who stayed when the league was losing money every single year. Instead, they handed the biggest megaphone to a rookie with one season. The seasoned veterans were absolutely livid. Insiders from the Players' Union claim many felt totally betrayed. They had been loyal soldiers to the WNBA for decades. They played in empty gyms for years. They carried the league on their backs when the world didn't care. They endured commercial flights while NBA stars enjoyed private jets. Now, NBC acted as if all that sacrifice didn't even matter. But the network executives weren't valuing loyalty. They were hunting for a massive payout. The analytics told an undeniable story. Peacock began rolling out their aggressive new WNBA marketing campaigns across the board. I'm the ultimate fan, but I'm also the top salesperson for this league. I need everyone to truly understand our identity. Caitlyn's face dominated every single poster. The rest of the roster became background noise in their own league's hype. This was a deliberate executive move. They focus-tested different ads with casual sports fans. The feedback for the veteran players was honestly quite brutal. When the screen showed icons like Diana Taurasi or Breanna Stewart, the test audience barely even blinked an eye. But with Caitlin Clark, engagement hit the ceiling. Casual fans knew her name. They still remembered her legendary college run. They were desperate to see her next move. NBC even ran specialized tests on social media advertisements. Posts featuring Caitlyn pulled 5 times more interest than those showcasing any other star in the WNBA roster. Every metric from shares to likes favored Caitlyn. The data was so skewed that the marketing team stopped testing other players entirely. Execs followed the data. When Caitlyn played, the viewership numbers went through the roof. If she sat, interest vanished. Her jersey sales actually beat every other player in the league combined. Writer Dick Weiss reported that Indiana Fever jerseys for Caitlin Clark moved record numbers in just one day. The Fever went from the league's worst attendance to selling out every single home game on the schedule. Road attendance doubled when teams announced her arrival, but the situation got even wilder once you saw the details. NBC scrutinized the viewership minute by minute. They saw that when Caitlyn sat, people switched the channel or walked away. They were there to watch Caitlin Clark play. This created a massive crisis for the league's old-school power structure. The WNBA had always pushed the idea that the collective brand was bigger than any individual star. Marketing funds were split up across the board. Every player was supposed to be part of one movement. But NBC's data showed that philosophy was dead. Peacock's streaming analytics told the exact same story. Her games average 500,000 streams. Others get 80,000. That is no minor gap. That is the difference between a profitable venture and a massive loss. It's the difference between job security and a pink slip. NBC knew that championships and legacy don't grant power. Real influence in sports doesn't come from history. It comes from what you can sell in the present moment. Today, NBC only cared about selling one product once the cash flow became the main priority. Right now, the Players' Union is battling team owners, demanding a 30% share of the league's revenue. They want bigger checks and better travel. These demands are actually quite reasonable. Other professional leagues give their athletes far more. Here is the catch. The veterans leading this strike don't have the leverage they imagine. The owners are strictly focused on data. The WNBA lost money for 25 straight years. It only survived because the NBA kept continually bankrolling the entire operation. From 1997 until 2023, the books bled red every single year. Franchises were essentially hemorrhaging capital. The typical club drained millions annually. The league's heartbeat only continued because the NBA treated it like a tax-exempt charity. Everything shifted the moment Caitlyn arrived, suddenly offering a legitimate blueprint for real financial prosperity in women's sports. Corporate backing exploded by 40% in one cycle. Gear sales shattered benchmarks while viewership numbers climbed across all platforms. The Indiana Fever transformed from losing $2 million annually to nearly breaking even for the first time ever. She officially joined Indiana's roster right after concluding one of the most legendary runs in college basketball history. The front office knows exactly who is writing those checks. It certainly isn't the established veterans. That wealth was generated by the newcomer they tried to sabotage. Now, the labor dispute has taken a wild turn. The union is demanding ironclad contracts. They want management to commit to higher floor salaries regardless of total earnings. They're calling for private team jets and high-end hotel stays for every single road trip. They want advertising budgets that mirror NBA icons. Executives are sitting in these meetings quietly running the numbers. A 10-year pro earning $200,000 might only bring in $50,000 in actual merchandise and tickets. Caitlin Clark pulls in millions on her own. The financial reality simply does not compute. Why would bosses pay extra to talent that doesn't drive revenue? When the union threatens a walkout, owners aren't flinching. A contingency plan exists. They are fully prepared to finish the season with a roster of replacement players. They have Clark locked into a contract, and Paige Buecher's about to headline the next draft. A new wave of college phenoms is hungry for pro spots. In the past, strike threats were just hollow bluffs. Who would tune in without the veterans? That was a valid question until Caitlin changed the entire game. Management now realizes that as long as she's playing, people watch. They could fill the rest with lower-tier athletes. As long as Caitlin is on that hardwood, the fans will flood the gates. Clark hits another deep three. She has arrived. The seasoned stars believed they were the ones holding all the high-stakes cards. They assumed they were the lifeblood of the league. But that era has officially come to an end. The league needs Caitlin, who gets paid by NBC whether she plays a single WNBA minute or not. Power has shifted. In typical labor wars, athletes have the upper hand because the product vanishes without the main stars. But this league isn't a collective product anymore. It has become a one-person show. That one person isn't even fighting the union's battle. She's sitting courtside at Lakers games, earning millions from NBC regardless. The reality of their situation is finally starting to dawn on the veteran players. Some athletes are reportedly telling their leaders to drop the strike, realizing they are bargaining from a place of weakness. They see that if forced to choose between pay raises or a league built on youth, owners pick youth every time. This is the moment the old guard finally grasped the full weight of their tactical errors. They tried to build a wall to isolate Caitlin, but they accidentally constructed their own prison instead. They handed the front office a golden opportunity to rebuild the entire league without them. Now they are stuck in a fight they can't win. Corporate America made its choice, starting with Nike. They sponsor many league legends, but they also have Clark signed to a massive, record-breaking endorsement deal. Super Bowl 60 was on the horizon. It promised to be the peak of two incredible turnaround stories. Nike had the cash for a primetime commercial. The only question was who to highlight. They chose silence. The brand confirmed to industry insiders that they wouldn't run any Super Bowl spots this calendar year. No Clark ad, no veteran highlights, nothing. It seemed confusing until you saw the politics behind the curtain. Nike didn't want to get caught in a civil war. Featuring Caitlin would trigger a social media assault from veterans. Promoting the veterans meant spending money on players with far less market appeal and lower public interest. So they walked away entirely. Other corporations, however, didn't have those same reservations. State Farm, Gatorade, and Wilson all doubled down their investments on Caitlin Clark. Her Nike shoe is launching soon with record pre-orders, while the veterans see their own brand deals dry up. The corporate landscape is heartless. They don't value history or feelings, they only care about the return on capital. Caitlin hits millions of fans with one post. The veterans are lucky to reach a few thousand. Brands are obsessed with that gap. Peacock saw their subscriber base surge by 35% once the season tipped off. Top brass at NBC pinned that explosion solely on Clark's presence on their screens. We are talking about serious capital here. Hard numbers do not lie. While the old guard demanded a seat at the table, big business handed them their walking papers. A total collapse that caught everyone off guard. It is March 2025, and the internet is absolutely melting down. Labor wars might kill the season before it starts. The public is divided, but the truth inside those closed doors is far darker. Ownership is huddled in secret, whispering about a nuclear option that no one dares to mention in the light of day. Imagine a total reset. Picture a world where they build around Clark and ditch everyone else for fresh blood. It is the Clark Show from sunup to sundown. Is this some kind of nostalgic high school flashback? She hits the mark. Letting the legends walk while backing the rookie seems wild until you check the balance sheet. A 10-year pro earning $200,000 barely generates $50,000 in revenue. The math is brutal. Meanwhile, Clark is a multi-million-dollar magnet. Honestly, it is not even a fair fight at this point. NBC signaled their move by carving out a custom spotlight for her far from the league. She is officially an NBA media star now. She is thriving away from the system that tried to break her. When talk of a lockout surfaced last year, the buzz was deafening. Yet once the postseason arrived, the conversation surrounding those issues completely evaporated into thin air. It proves that the masses are absolutely hooked on the way the modern game is evolving. Clark stays on top regardless. She has the fame, the fortune, and the spotlight. The seniors? They have absolutely no backup plan. A dark season means total irrelevance for them. Without games to play, their names simply vanish from the public eye. Losing that stage kills their sponsorship deals. And without those checks, their bank accounts rely solely on a frozen salary. If the bosses pull the plug on the old guard, they are finished. The gravity of this reality is finally sinking in for some. Tensions are brewing behind the curtain. Certain athletes are already straying from the official union narrative to save themselves. Regret is setting in. They are wondering if choosing war over a warm welcome for the rookie was a massive tactical error. Too late for sorry now. This shift is reshaping the entire basketball landscape, reaching far beyond any single person or organization. This current chaos is literally rewriting the playbook for how professional sports leagues function in the modern era. It is unprecedented, witnessing an entire institution tear down its old self to reconstruct its soul around one lone superstar. Other leagues have legends, but none are held hostage by one name. Today, the entire women's game orbits the Clark galaxy. Calendars are set by her schedule. Every ad features her face. TV networks are cutting checks solely to capture her magic. This is a high-stakes gamble. One bad landing or an early exit could send the entire house of cards tumbling down. She has not even... Oh wow, that ankle looks brutal. You can almost feel the agony through the screen. Imagine if she flees for an international contract. The front office has gambled their entire fortune on a single hand. If she vanishes, the foundation crumbles. But let's be honest, the owners were backed into a corner with no other escape. The other option was ghost town stadiums and dismal ratings. They picked a risky lifeline over a slow and certain death. The seniors are getting a cold wake-up call. Turns out, past trophies do not mean much when the rent is due. Longevity is a myth. The only currency that counts in this business is your immediate impact on the bottom line. Right now, they simply cannot match her gravity. This fallout is going to dictate how every future prospect carries themselves. The next generation of ballers is taking notes, witnessing exactly how the old guard got left behind. They see that raw skill is secondary to star power. Being elite on the court is no longer enough to survive. You must be a double threat, a killer athlete and a corporate goldmine. The elders fought the tide and lost. Their resistance crumbled. Not long ago, she was just a student athlete with a lethal long-range jumper and a dream. Now she is the force making legendary careers obsolete. NBC did not do this out of spite or malice. Cold, hard statistics dictated the play. When one rookie outshines an entire era of pros, the business decision makes itself. The established stars blew their opportunity. They could have embraced her wave and sailed to new heights together. Instead, they chose sabotage and dug their own graves. Now they are watching from the couch while she headlines the big leagues. No rescue party is coming, ownership has moved on, and the media giants are not looking back at the past. The industry evolved without them. This is the price of sabotaging your own growth. The throne has officially been vacated. The crown now belongs to that kid from Iowa they tried to crush. And believe me, this is only the beginning.